Okay. Apple Vision Pro. I've had this thing since launch day. I went to the Apple store on the 2nd. The store was actually able to get me this a couple days early. I had it scheduled to pick up on the 4th, but they were nice enough to move me up to that Friday. And I love this thing. I love this thing. It actually made me into a believer of this technology. I went into it skeptical. I actually got it to see if Apple was going to figure out how to do this correctly. I have an iPhone 15 Pro Max. I got a Mac. I got an iPad. I got a freaking watch. Okay. I'm all in on Apple, but I was skeptical of this technology. And the one thing it did surprisingly is that it actually helped me understand where this technology is going. But I don't think it's there yet. As beautiful as it is, it really is. When you hold it, you feel like you're freaking holding the future. And I want to keep it so bad, man. I really do. It's a special thing. But there are just certain things about it that, for my use case at least, I can't get over. I just can't get over. And I'll walk you through what that is. Let me go ahead and start with the positives first. The first one is that the technology on this thing is bananas. It's absolutely insane. The lenses in the headset are super, super clear. All the native apps that come with the Apple Vision Pro, so Safari and Text and Disney Plus and whatever other apps that are tailor-made for the Vision Pro, by far the best viewing experience I've ever had on a headset. In addition to that, the way to interface with that beautiful scenery, with those beautiful apps that the Apple Vision Pro has, the input of just looking at something and clicking your fingers, it really is the main reason that helped me understand how this thing was gonna work in the future, why this thing is actually something that's going to be very impactful when it comes to how we interface with technology. Just look at something and go like this. Works 99.9% of the time for me. And the combination of those two things make interfacing with the device something truly special. And then the other thing that I did better than any other headset I've tried, every single one of them, the freaking Vive, the Quest, every single one of them, is that with those, I got dizzy. I got nauseous after a while. It gave me a lot of eye fatigue after a little while. None of that with this thing. This thing, I don't know how they freaking did it. And that is freaking crazy. I thought that was something that these headsets were going to have forever, and we would just somehow figure out how to live with it. Nope. Completely got rid of it. And if you take those things and you layer on the fact that you have Disney Plus and apps like that have 3D movies, if you're a movie junkie and you enjoy that type of viewing experience with 3D, this thing is insane. I mean, it's absolutely insane. For me, it's by far the best headset I've used for that kind of technology. Honestly, I would prefer viewing movies like that in this headset than paying, I don't know what it is now, like 20, 30 bucks to go to a IMAX 3D or whatever it is and watch it with other people around, and I'm not even really that immersed. I would prefer this over that experience, honestly, because I have privacy. I can, view it from wherever I want. I don't have to be around other people. I can be on a freaking plane and view that kind of experience. And with the built-in audio, it's actually good enough to have a pretty good immersive experience with movies. However, if you do really want the full spectrum and the full sort of sound that comes from those movies, definitely use it with AirPods. They perform much, much better with those. And the other thing it does extremely well is connecting with a Mac and blow up the screen, and you can make it, 1,000 feet wide, and you can write from the top of a mountaintop if you wanted to. It does that extremely well, and it's surprisingly useful because you can really turn any sort of Apple workspace into something completely different. You can have your screen up from your work. You can have, a separate screen on the right, a separate screen on the left. You can have a screen up top. So instead of potentially spending 10,000 bucks on a monitor setup, you just get this Vision Pro, and then you surround yourself with all the apps that you need. So it's super impressive and it's super responsive. There's no lag. I can't really perceive any lag between my inputs and the machine. And I can walk away from the Mac and I can come back and the screen's still there. It just works really, really well. However, even with all those pros, all those things it does so well, and it really, I can't stress enough how well it does those things. It really is eye-opening, and it helps you sort of picture what the future is going to look like. The cons are, for me, too hard to overcome, especially at the price point. And given the fact that I don't really have a killer app for me, there is no use case for me where I can justify the $3,500 price tag and keep this thing. So let me walk you through what those things are, starting with comfort. Now, I will say that this headset is actually really, really comfortable. For me, as long as I use this dual loop band, this thing fit really, really well on my head. I can put it on right now. It's just feels pretty good. I don't really have too many issues with it. The problem is that after a couple hours, it doesn't matter how comfortable this thing sits on your head. it's still something on your head. It's still something on your face. And so the equation I'll have to go through is, okay, would I rather go through that hurdle of putting this thing on my head and use it to, type or write or do whatever work I need to do, edit, create content for this channel? Would I rather put that headset on and after a couple hours, I know I'm going to feel like I have something on my head and on my face? Or do I just go to my computer and work? And for me, with the size of this thing and the weight, it's not really tailor-made to be worn for a long time. I think it works great if you have a use case for this where it's maybe 2 hours, 3 hours max per day. But once you go over that, this becomes it becomes more cumbersome. It becomes something that you have to fight with instead of it just working with your life. And I think the reason why computers and, cell phones and iPads and tablets and whatever else, the reason why those technologies work so well is because there's no layer of discomfort. It just kind of works. You don't have to be okay with pain to use it. You just use it and it amplifies your life. It makes your life easier. It makes it more efficient. Whereas this thing right now where it stands, there is a cost benefit analysis for me where I have to say, okay, how much pain do I want to endure to have my mind shattered with how sick the graphics are? But in the end, can I just do that same exact thing on my computer? Yeah. And when it comes to typing, can I just type on my computer for 8 hours versus 2 to 3 hours with this thing on before I get tired? Absolutely, right? And that's where this thing is a non-starter for me when it comes to comfort. Then if you want to actually be productive, typing on this thing, unless you have an actual mouse and keyboard, is really, really slow. So I do a lot of writing. A lot of my content is based on me writing down, my stories, my thoughts, how I'm thinking about stuff. And I spend probably a solid 4 to 5 hours a day doing that. And it's just something I love to do. And for that use case, one of the really cool things it does do is that it gives you this sort of, like, you have blinders on when you wear this thing. And I have found myself getting lost in the writing process. When I come to, an idea comes, I put it on and I'm on top of a mountain, writing out my thoughts. It is magical. But again, after a couple hours, it gets tiring. And if I don't have a keyboard in front of me, right? If I don't have a keyboard, a physical keyboard to pair with it, it doesn't really work that well. Because you just either have to be there clicking, looking at the letters and clicking, which after a minute, you're going to lose your mind, or you have to talk. You have to use spoken word. And the spoken word is not perfect. I have a slight accent, so sometimes it messes up words for me. And for me, it's just typing is just better. Typing's better. So if you're looking to use this thing as say, in a coding workflow or in a writing workflow, you're going to have to spend additional money to buy a keyboard that pairs with the Vision Pro. If you have a Mac already, it's probably a non-issue because you can just use a keyboard from the Mac, which is what I did. But out of the box, it's not really built for somebody to, say, do creative work or even editing in Premiere Pro or anything like that. Then the other thing that I was surprised by that I thought Apple kind of missed when it comes to the headset is the pass-through quality is not that great. So pass-through is basically the headset's ability to take the cameras. I don't know if you can see it with the reflections here. Oh, there, maybe right there. There's cameras on the front of the headset right here that it uses to capture the outside world. And then it uses the inside screens, you can see the two lenses there, to replicate reality. But the quality from that outside world, the real world, is grainy. It's quite grainy. Even in decent light conditions, reality doesn't look nearly as sharp as the native apps. So you're walking around your house, let's say, and you want to pet your dog, you want to say hi to your wife or husband or whatever, and those things don't look it just doesn't look sharp. It doesn't look real. It looks more like a projection of reality. Now, the accuracy of where your hands are relative to, say, your headset is actually super, super accurate. It does an extremely good job of putting the things in the right place. But it's low quality. And the reason why that's a problem for me is, say I want to interface with my phone. I want to interface with my computer while I have these things on. The text is super blurry. I want to read, letter comes in from the mailman, which is 98% trash, right? I open it up and I can't read the thing, And then when I have the apps overlaid over reality, those things are, they're so freaking clear. And so I thought Apple really missed on having higher quality cameras on the outside of the Vision Pro. And if reality doesn't look nearly as sharp as the digital world, then you're kind of missing on so much potential from this device. Because then if reality is clear, you can actually interface with it as you would in, say, the digital world, and then you have an incentive to keep this thing on. Because as you're walking around the house, you can do everything perfectly. You don't lose any ability or function when you're doing your day-to-day chores. But then you have that digital layer on top of it with the headset. And so you get a text, you just look up, you click, and you talk to your friends and family or whatever, you FaceTime, and you say bye-bye. And then reality still looks as sharp as it should. But instead, it looks like a low resolution version of reality. And the more I used it, the more I was bummed by that. I thought that's a huge, huge miss. And probably the biggest issue of all, at least for my use case, is that for $3,500, there's no app. There's no killer feature out there where it makes sense for me to keep this while I have to fight through the cons. And that's the equation I have to go through. I have to fight through the cons to make this thing work for my life. But there's nothing out there that would actually force me to fight through those first generation hurdles that the headset has with the weight and the blurry vision of reality and the other things that I talked about. There's no pool, there's nothing. There's no killer app for me. But I do believe that this product is the future. I think comfort, get a 50% lighter, 50% smaller, figure out how to make pass-through at least 50% better, and maybe get the compute up a little bit more so you can do native apps like Premiere Pro and other very intensive apps. That keyboard, mouse, get it included. And then maybe by Gen 3, even Gen 4, this thing I think is going to start appearing on a lot of people's faces. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised. It's just, man, it's the future, but not yet. It's the future, but not yet. So I definitely want to give props to Apple for trying something bold, for daring to, really get this thing to work. I'm actually very excited that they did this because I think Apple still has it. They still got it. It's just a little early. I can't wait to see what Tim cooks up. See what I did? With the second generation and the third generation. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Bye-bye.